Hello, everyone. I'm WFXR Sports Director Jermaine Ferrell. Welcome to the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. Each Tuesday and Friday, I will have a special sit-down, one-on-one interview with a person in the world of sports. It is our commitment to bring you a special look at these people and share their stories with you on WFXRTV.com. Again, thank you so much for logging on to WFXRTV.com for the latest edition of the WFXR Sports Sit Down. Enjoy.
All right, folks, Jermaine Ferrell here again with another WFXR Sports Sit Down. And obviously, every time we do these, we get an opportunity to talk to sports figures and sports broadcasters. And this one, I tell you, I've known him, I want to say nearly, it might be close to 20 years, but he's just an awesome, he's an awesome guy in the business. He's been doing it for a while. A guy from Michigan, the pride of the Central Michigan Chippewas, and the awesome sports director for a little more than a couple of decades at KFDX. He's in our sister station, the NBC affiliate in Wichita Falls, Texas. A guy that's not just a friend, he's like family. He's like my brother, older brother, Tobin Mcduff. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Jermaine. Love you, brother.
I love you too. I tell you, thank you for being on the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. You just passed, and we'll get more into it a little bit later. You just passed a milestone. It was on July the 4th or 5th, one of the days. I think it was the 4th. Yeah. 25 years at KFDX in Wichita Falls, Texas. I got to ask you, does it seem like you've been doing that for 25 years?
It's starting to feel that way. You know, as you get older, the body tells you that you've been doing it for quite a while, that's for sure. But, you know, it's so special to me to be at one station for 25 years. And I know a lot of people, you know, they use Wichita Falls as a stepping stone to get up to larger markets and everything. And I've fallen in love with this community, and I've stuck around for 25 years. They've put up with me.
Good deal. So you're originally from, as I mentioned, Michigan. What city again in Michigan? I always butcher it.
Grew up in Brighton, Michigan, which is about 45 minutes outside of Detroit, and in the southeast corner of Michigan.
Yeah. Where did you love from sports broadcast? Like when you were growing up, what made you want to get into sports broadcasting?
Well, you know, Jermaine, I loved sports from an early age. You know, I was that kid that collected baseball cards and football cards and basketball cards and hockey cards. And, you know, I saved up all my money and use my money to spend on those cards, and a lot of those I still have today. But when I was 8 years old, Robbie Timmons, a reporter from the ABC station in Detroit, came to my school for Flag Day. And I remember standing next to her on Flag Day, and she was doing a stand-up. And then she, you know, went back and put her story together, and I got to see myself on TV that night. And I thought that was so cool that I was on TV. And from that day forward, from, you know, the age of 8, I knew that I wanted to be on television, and my love of sports made it become that I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And, you know, I would get in trouble at night because the news came on at 11 o'clock at night there in Michigan. And I would crawl over to my door, my bedroom, and my mom always watched the news, and I would repeat word for word what the sports broadcasters were saying during their broadcast. And some nights my mom would let me get away with it, and some nights she'd yell at me, you know, Tobin, get back to bed. But I would do that just about every night, repeating word for word, you know, what they were saying. And now I'm in that role.
That's good stuff. So you got to tell the story. I love the story. It never gets old for me. Obviously from Michigan. Talk about how you got, I mean, because it's 25 years, I mean, of doing this. Tell everybody out there, how do you actually got the job at KFDX, and then some of the roles you had before you led up to going into sports, becoming a sports player?
Sure. You know, I went to Central Michigan University, and I was one of those kids that went to school, and they told us at our orientation, some of you are going to change your majors, some of you are going to drop out of school or go to a different college. And I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to go 4 years, get a broadcast degree, and move into the industry. And that's exactly what I did. But upon graduation, you know, you have to send out your resume reels. So I had a bunch of VHS tapes that I boxed up and packed a resume with and sent them to stations across the country. and, just didn't hear from it, very many of them. And if I did hear from them, it was a rejection letter, basically, telling you that they're going to keep it on file. And I kind of expected that to happen for a little bit, but man, after about 4, 5, 6 months of it, I really started to get down. And at the 1 year mark, depression kind of set in. It just hit me. It's like, this is what I'd wanted to do my entire life. And it's been a year since I graduated from college. And I just prayed about it. I prayed about it. And for the first time in my life, instead of just praying and moving on, I prayed and I listened. And what God told me was, go get the job. The job's there for you. Go get it. So I went into work. I was working as a courier and for an insurance company. And I went into work and I told him, I said, I'm not coming back next week. I'm taking off and leaving, and I'm going to find a job in broadcast journalism. So go ahead and fill my position. And so I did. I left town on a Tuesday, left Michigan on a Tuesday, and really didn't know where I was heading. I decided to head towards Texas. My dad had grown up in East Texas, and when we had vacationed here, I loved the state of Texas and the pride that they take in their state. And so I came this direction. My first stop was in Kearney, Nebraska. I showed up on the doorstep of a station, and they basically told me they didn't have anything available. My next stop was in Lawton, and they basically did the same thing. On Saturday, I wound up in Wichita Falls, and I stopped at the competing station first, and they said they didn't have anything, but there's another TV station down the road. So I showed up here at KFDX in Wichita Falls, the NBC affiliate. I knocked on the back door, and the guy that answered the door, his name was Ken Peterson. He was the weekend anchor at the time. And he said, you know what? He said, two positions just opened up this past week. You may want to come back on Monday and talk to the news director. So I went out and I prayed about it in the parking lot here at KFDX. And God told me to stay here and wait for that interview. So I got a hotel room. I had been just sleeping in my car because I didn't have the money to be staying in a hotel every night. But when I was here, I got a hotel room. I came back on Monday morning. They interviewed me for the position, and they hired me that day. So, a year had passed, and I had gotten really depressed about not having a job. And then within 1 week of hitting the road to go find that job, I landed here at KFDX. And they hired me as a morning associate producer. So I wrote stories. I edited video for the early morning shift. So I was working from like 3 in the morning until 1 p.m. And I did that for, I started on the 4th of July and in 1995. And I did that for July. My first on-air piece ran during sweeps in November of that year. So I started doing some stories. And then the morning anchor left, and she took a job in Colorado. So they moved me into that anchor position, and I was anchoring the morning news to get my feet wet. And then when a position opened up in the sports department, which we had discussed during my interview process, that's where I wanted to land eventually. A position opened up. I moved into the sports department. I worked the weekend shift and did the weekend gig for 10 years, got promoted to sports director, and I've been sports director ever since.
It's interesting. I think the first time, and when you started there, I was in Indianapolis, and then in 1996, I got stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And the first time I think it was right around the time frame you were doing mornings. I remember watching you. And then I started taking classes at Cameron. And then just on the whim, I think I reached out to you through email or Facebook, and I said, "What's up, T-Mac?" It's out of the blue, right? You probably think, well, who is this dude? Just reaching out. And there was something about you I liked about you. I saw what you were doing in the mornings and the weekend sports. And the biggest thing that I enjoyed is just how you treated everybody. I think the first time we actually met was I was a student still at Cameron, and you came up and covered the Midwestern State Cameron game. And it was you, and it was Brick Shelton, and I want to say it might have been Vince Erickson, or maybe it was Nathan, one of the two that was covering the game. And, I was just chewing the fat. We were picking y'all's brains about the business and all that. And what was so neat, just your kindness and just how you are to people. And I will say this about you, and I've respected this. You have mentored so many people. Probably, you've mentored me, and we probably were the closest in age, but everybody else you've mentored have been, you're older probably to be their father or older brother. What's it what's it like to, mentor? And because a lot of people you've had a hand with, they're out doing bigger and stronger things. What's it like for you to see the people that have been underneath you, under your guidance and tutelage, to mentor them and to see them move on to bigger and stronger markets? Or not stronger markets, but bigger.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying, Jermaine. And I tell you what, early in my career, I never had the aspirations necessarily of making it to ESPN, I don't think. That's 25 years ago. I really don't remember now. But, as time has progressed and I've matured and gotten older, I've been able to, accomplish a lot of things in my career and experience a lot of things that I'm very appreciative of. But the thing that I take the most pride in is the people that have come in here for a couple of years and used this as a learning station and learning the business, and they've moved on, to other markets because they wanted to achieve that success in larger markets. And so, we've got guys across the country, in Ricardo LeCompte, who has moved on, and he's worked in several markets, and he's in New Orleans now, and Orlando Sanchez is in Portland, and then of course we've got Ruthie Polinsky down in Miami, and it's so fun to see them leave here and move on and achieve the goals that they've set for themselves.
I will say this, and we were actually, before we were teammates, we were rivals, but I would say friendly rivals. I mean, I worked at the station down the street as the sports director. And when I was let go from that position, you were so nice and accommodating. And I think, honestly, let's face facts. If we didn't like each other, there's no way in the world, when I came and worked with you, there's no way, well, I'm not going to have Jermaine Ferrell working with me when he's the rival. But I learned in this business is so small. And the thing is, you have to treat people with respect, because the person that could be your rival will be your teammate. It's so small in this business.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jermaine, I will never forget. You came here and you were working as a photog because you wanted to stay in the business. And I'll never forget the day that we sat down in the news director's office and said, Jermaine, we want to offer you that position in the sports department. And the joy that was on your face, I will never forget. The hug, the embrace that we had at that moment. We were a true team in that sports department. But I'll never forget that day because I just saw the joy in your face that you were getting back into sports because it's something that you're passionate about.
And I give you a lot of credit because there was a lot of tough times there, but for you to help me do that, I appreciate it. I'll never forget it. Now, looking at things over time, I mean, we covered a lot of stuff. You've covered a lot of stuff. Is there something in your career? I mean, there's so many things you've done, but is there one event or a few events that stand out for you as far as coverage when you've been in Texoma? Is there anything that stands out to you or events?
Well, I mean, on the local front, there's a certain sense of pride and joy and excitement and happiness. I mean, the emotions that we feel as broadcasters, I don't think a lot of people realize how much we actually care. But when we see our local high school athletes achieve a state championship, I mean, that's the ultimate goal in high school, right? Is to win state in whatever sport you're competing in. And being able to witness so many state championships over the years has really been fulfilling for me. As a kid and getting a job in a small market like Wichita Falls, I think there was a point where you kind of thought, okay, that was it. You're just going to experience those state championships, and that was great. But then opportunities started to arise where we could cover some of the national events that were taking place. And as a little kid, I never would have guessed that I would be able to go and work the World Series, the NBA Finals, the Super Bowl, the College Football National Championship. I mean, all of those games that you watch as a kid and those games that really made you the sports fan that you are, you just kind of, I think as a kid and even early in your journalism career, you see those as maybe unobtainable goals or things that just, are going to be out of reach for you. And I've been able to attend all of those events and cover those events as a journalist, and all of them are wonderful memories.
Yeah, it's true. I tell you, it's nothing like covering a team a high school team or teams you invest your time in. They win a state championship. It's awesome. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. It's kind of more of a serious tone and stuff. During my time in Wichita Falls, there's really three things that stood out to me in individuals. Obviously, Nick Golson, the longtime sports editor with the Wichita Falls Times News. He lost his battle with cancer, passing away. And then, of course, recently we had Noelle Johnson, who we've known since she started there and really got the Midwest State women's basketball program back on awesome footing, and two individuals that will never be forgotten. Two-part question, just your thoughts and feelings overall about both of them, and do you have any special or maybe funny stories about each of them that you could probably share with us?
Sure. Well, Nick Golson and I really became close friends as Midwestern State, where he went to college, had some successful seasons in basketball. We shared a room together when we were on the road in Massachusetts or wherever the playoffs took us with Midwestern State. So we were able to share a lot of meals together and just share stories together. And I'll forever, relish those memories with Nick, because, when you get into this business, the events that we cover are incredible, but the relationships that you build are twice that. And then you mentioned Noelle becoming the all-time winningest coach in Midwestern State women's basketball history. There's some coaches that you just develop a bond with. And, when you see that coach, you're going to walk up and you're going to share a hug or a handshake. And one of the things that I've always said that I loved about Noelle is she always, she would ask how I was doing, and then the next question out of her mouth was, "How is Lucy doing?" Asking about my daughter, and that's just the type of person that she was. But those are the special memories that you have, with those coaches and other people in the media that really understand your industry. And Nick understood, what I went through. I kind of understood what Nick went through, just like you and I can share stories because we understand what each other goes through on a daily basis.
Tell you the thing about Coach Jay, the biggest memory I will have, there's two. When she found out I was coming back, she was excited about that. And then when I told her I was leaving, she was disappointed and sad about that. She wished me all the best and all that. And then, when I came back to Wichita Falls and I saw Nick in hospice, that was something that was and his family was so grateful that, I would come over there and you would come over there, and they're really appreciative of that. And then one thing that stood out to me, and I remember actually when Candace Martin passed away, great athlete at Graham. And the first thing that really popped in my head, it wasn't even about doing a story. I mean, they said, yeah, we'll do the interview. And I wanted to just go down there and see how they were doing. I said, yeah, do the interview. And then a lot of the family members, they sent an email to our general manager at KFDX. Jermaine did this and that. I wasn't doing it for that because, to lose a child, I couldn't imagine what that would feel like. And for them to go through and then set up the candy cane tributes and all that is special. But the biggest thing, and I'll say this about you, Tobin, in Texoma, yeah, we had Nick Golson, and there have been others, but the bell cow, the standard of sports coverage in Texoma, people go to you. And in fact, something that you've done, which is big time, and I think we talked about it a little bit when I was there, but it became your dream and passion. There's a couple of things, but obviously, and I want to ask you about Tobin's ties, I'll do it in a second, but to create the Texoma Sports Hall of Fame, just talk about putting all that together and just creating something that Texoma needs, because there's been a lot of great athletes that have come through Texoma.
Yeah, you and I did have many, many conversations about it. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing because I thought it was so important that communities across the country should do this, because they need to remember, the history and what was laid down before them and the athletes that paved the way. And we didn't have that here in the Wichita Falls area in Texoma. And so we created the Next Star Sports Award for Texoma. And what we do is we honor area high school and college athletes every year, but then we also have started a Hall of Fame so we can honor those from the past that have paved the way. And for the current athletes, our goal is to turn this into a scholarship event as well to benefit kids in this area. But it's just, we got the first one off the ground, and it was a huge success last year. And then COVID-19 came in and kind of put a damper on things for this year's event. It was supposed to be held just a couple of weeks ago in June, and we've pushed it back for the time being to December. So hopefully we'll be able to do it at that point. But we're going to do this moving forward, and this is going to, will be an annual event, and we're going to continue to recognize the kids, that are playing now, and we're going to continue to recognize those athletes that paved the way leading up to our current times.
Tobin's Ties. That is legendary. Tell me when that started. How did it start? I mean, how did you come up with that idea?
Well, we used to have a telethon for the Children's Miracle Network to raise money for the hospital here because we just feel that it's so important. Children's Miracle Network does a great thing for families here where they're able to keep families together in Wichita Falls. If they need to have that medical equipment, and medical technology changes so fast that it's just a continuous process. They always need money. And, some of the equipment that they get, it may cost them $5. And some of the equipment that they need costs them thousands of dollars. So, money is definitely a need for someone like the Children's Miracle Network and United Regional Hospital here in Wichita Falls. And we used to hold a telethon. Well, they brought an end to the telethon, and I just decided, man, I needed to do my part to try to find a way to continue to raise some funds. And so I wanted to think of something unique that I had not seen before. So what I started doing was getting celebrities that, I would run across during the course of a year, people that would come to Wichita Falls, or somebody that I would see outside of Wichita Falls. The Texas Motor Speedway jumped on and was able to help out. The Texas Rangers had helped out on a yearly basis. And what I would do is just have an athlete sign a tie. Typically, they'd sign it on the bottom of the tie. Some of them, like Randy White of the Dallas Cowboys, used the entire tie and signed, across it so you saw it. Some of them turned around and signed it on the back. So people that purchased those ties in an online bid, could use that as a talking point or something. They could show up somewhere and it just looks like a normal tie, and then they turn around and show you, hey, I got this tie signed by Elvis Andrus of the Texas Rangers. But over the years, we've raised thousands of money doing that for Children's Miracle Network, and it was really proud to do that, and it's something that's given back to this community.
That is awesome stuff. And as you mentioned, COVID-19 has kind of put sports on the back burner. How have you guys, like you and MJ Baird, who's, by the way, I think he's a future star, another one of your pupils, as they would say, I think he's going to be tremendous. How have you guys at KFDX, one of our sister stations in the Next Star Galaxy, how have you guys have gone through covering sports? Because it has been a challenge for us sports guys to come up with new, fresh, and particularly local content.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jermaine, when this happened, I was at spring training with the Texas Rangers at the time, and baseball shut down, and there was a lot of confusion at that point. We really didn't understand what was going on. And then, I remember going out for dinner one night, and we were watching the Dallas Mavericks play, and the sports world was just shutting down. And when I got back into Wichita Falls, I had seen that a lot of stations across the country were moving their sports reporters into the news department, and sat down with my news director here, and we actually discussed that as well. You mentioned MJ Baird, the potential of moving him into the news department, either on a 2 or 3 time a week basis or full time. And I said, no, I said, I truly believe that we can do this. There are enough sports stories that we don't get to share during the course of a regular sports season where you have so many events going on. And so I said, we can do this. We can put together stories each week that we can share with our community that they're going to appreciate, that they're going to love, and share the stories of these athletes and coaches and just sports stories that are entertainment And some of them are informative and historical. And we've done a number of different things, including one of the things that's just people have loved is on Thursdays, we rerun stories that aired, maybe 20 years ago. We've rerun some of your stories that you put together. And then what we do is we catch back up with the coaches or athletes that were in those stories and just kind of share. It's kind of like a where are they now type of story. But people have really, really eaten that up.
It's interesting. I kind of stole that idea. I call it Ferrell's Friday flashback or something like that. It's too many F's for me, like on my report card. But we've done something similar to that, where a story. Now our history isn't as deep, but I've been here for 5 years, so I've accumulated all the stories I've done. So I'll rerun them, and then I'll catch up with them, see hey what they're doing now and all that. So we've kind of done that similarly here, and obviously it has been a challenge. Now, obviously, something big in Texas. I mean, let's face facts. Texas, they love their football, high school football particularly. And I saw the UIL, what they decided to do was to broadcast games live, high school games live. What are people? I know in Virginia here, we don't know what's going to happen. I was very optimistic, but now I'm more pessimistic about high school sports in the fall. From your perspective out in Texas, where football is king and it's the bell cow and it drives the economic dollars for all the other sports, what's the feeling there about high school football in the fall? Because we both do football shows, so even our people want to know, are we going to have a Friday night blitz show on our end or a Friday night football show on your end? What's the sense there?
Well, the UIL seems to exude some confidence that the season's going to take place, and nobody really knows how it's going to happen. But the UIL seems to want to push forward. But I'll tell you what, just today, the athletic director for the Dallas Independent School District, Dallas is a pretty big town here in the state of Texas. He expressed through social media that he is pessimistic. He just does not see how it's going to happen to where they can keep all of the kids safe throughout a football season, both in competing, in transporting them, in holding, continuing to hold practices. Numbers obviously have risen in the state of Texas and, even here in Wichita Falls. So until we can find some sort of vaccine and start to get some solid answers, because I still think that months later, after this is, unfolded really in March is when the sports world kind of came to a halt. There's just still so many questions that haven't been able to be answered. Testing and the accuracy of testing. How are they going to test? How can school districts afford to test athletes on a regular basis? There's just so many questions. And we've seen that the Ivy League has decided to postpone, their fall sports seasons to at least the beginning of 2021. And just moments ago, we heard that the Big Ten has decided to move forward only with conference games this fall. So, I mean, the dominoes are starting to fall. We're just going to have to look and wait and see where they fall.
It's going to be tough, though, because it's going to be weird on Friday nights if we don't have any football. It's going to be weird not having a show, or if they move stuff to the spring, which a lot of schools are looking at doing that. So it'd be interesting to what I would compare it to, if they had high school football starting in January, it'd be like how we would do soccer. You remember we did soccer. It starts in January and we're shivering. It's an ice storm and all that. And so we would have to do it like that. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. Now, one thing is, me, I've had facial hair since you've known me, mustache or goatee. But you got a little mustache right there. Tell me how that developed, and just what's some of the reaction you've got from that Burt Reynolds style mustache, or Tom Selleck or whatever.
I probably didn't put enough thought into this when I decided, but when I was at spring training with the Texas Rangers in March, and the sports world came to a halt, I'm like, this could be a while before it comes back, and I thought at the time that maybe a month or two it would be back, but I decided at that point I was going to grow some facial hair. And it's going to stay on there until, sports resume. And so I've stuck to it. And some people have loved it. Some people have hated it, like my wife and my daughter. So they're looking forward to this thing being gone. It looks like it's going to happen. My birthday is on July 25th. and it looks like, baseball is going to be coming back on the 23rd, 24th. So we may be able to have like a Facebook Live event or do something, and I'll let my wife and daughter shave this thing off my face here at the end of the month.
So Missy and Lucy, they don't like it.
No, they're not a fan of it. I'll tell you the one thing that I am looking forward to after having this on my face for a month. I'm looking forward to it being gone as well. Right. But I'm taking a trip home to Michigan. My dad and my brother, they've had mustaches their entire lives. I mean, so that's how I know them. So we're going to be able to get a picture of me and my brother and my dad all with a mustache. And then the next week after that, mine will be gone. Yeah,
that'll be, I mean, when I first saw my wife Yolanda was like, does Tobin got a mustache? He's growing a little stuff up there. I don't know what it is. It might be a mustache.
I just had a pet caterpillar.
You know what? But you grew, if I remember right, then it was like you and I believe Doug Billieu, y'all grew like beards or facial hair during that stretch.
We did the little patch down here for a little bit. Yeah. I didn't like it. I got rid of mine fairly quickly. I let it grow out a little bit, but Doug kept his for quite a while. He was the news director and main anchor here at the time, and he let his grow out and kept it for quite a while. I consider mine to be like the Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon did that a few summers ago, where he grew it and then decided, okay, that's it. Well, that's going to be me. I grew it. I've done it. It's going to get shaved off, and I'll never say never, but I don't plan on growing another one. Let's just hope that there's not another sports shutdown.
Well, we don't want that. We do not want that. Ben Coker, a guy that, hey, you talk about a guy that's been there. He's like Mr. Reliable. Ben Coker has been there the entire time. Talk about and for people who don't know, Ben Coker, who was there full-time, worked with you at KFDX, and then he still, I believe, he's still with Texas. He might still be with Texas, I believe, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, Ben went with me yesterday as we went down to Globe Life Field to check in on the Texas Rangers and do some stories for Next Star Nation. Yeah. And, on the way back, we were talking about that as well. He's a full-time employee at TxDOT, the Department of Transportation here in Texas. And a lot of those folks that work at TxDOT, they have second jobs. But Ben Coker has probably got one of the best second jobs in the country because he gets to go to events. He's been able to go to cover the playoffs and the World Series, and he's been in a locker room with champagne celebrations, and he's been able to experience a lot of the great sporting events that have been played here in Texoma. He goes with me to spring training every year. Cover the Dallas Cowboys together. So for Ben Coker, used to be a full-time news guy here, being able to work in our sports department on an as-needed basis, or, kind of a part-time second job for him. I love having Ben around. He's got a great sense of humor. He's a great storyteller. He's a crazy sports fan, and he's just a fun guy to be around, and to be able to share that experience with him over these many years has been a highlight for me as well.
Another one of your go-to guys is Chad Johnson, who you worked with. I mean, it's funny. Chad and Ben, those two have been, I can't tell you the times where, obviously, when I was working at KUZ, seeing Ben out there shooting stuff. But Chad, I mean, you talk about a guy that's, I know he picks with us all, but deep down, I mean, he's an awesome man, a wonderful guy to be around. And I tell you one thing, he gets after it, too, when it comes to shooting stuff. He's helped you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, he is a huge Texas Rangers fan. He is a huge NASCAR fan. So anytime I've got questions, I love bouncing those questions off of Chad. Chad over the years, and he's a great local sports fan as well. And so bouncing those thoughts and questions off of him for local sports is always fun as well. He used to shoot a lot more football for us, but as his family has grown older, he's needed to attend his kids' events. I look forward to the years down the road, maybe, where he comes back and starts shooting some Friday night football for us, because I miss those days of him being here on Friday nights. That's for sure.
For you personally, and this is just my take, I look at them when I first got into the Wichita Falls Lawton market. It seems like sports was so strong at all the stations. Channel 7 in Lawton, and then Channel 6 was fairly strong, the Times Record News. But now it just seems like really the only area that really puts a premium on sports is KFDX in Texoma. How special is it for you knowing that KFDX and Nexstar, they believe in sports and they value it compared to the other stations? Because it just seems like you guys are still getting after it. And it's like kind of like everybody else is kind of just letting it fade away.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jermaine. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I've been really blessed over my years here at KFDX in that our general managers and our news directors that I've had over the years, and I've outlasted a bunch of them, you know, but that they've always put an emphasis on our sports coverage. And, you know, I went in just a couple of weeks ago, and Wayne Reed is our general manager, and I just said, hey, I just wanted to stop in and say thank you because, and he's like, thank you for what? And I said, you know, I just want to thank you because sports has always been a priority here at KFDX. And, you know, with you as our general manager, that tradition has continued. And I think it's important. You know, we're kind of the good news part of a newscast, and you know, we're an outreach, not just in Wichita Falls, but we take a lot of pride in covering our small towns. You know, whether we're heading out to Kroll, or we're heading out to Vernon or Quanah or Bowie or Graham, as you mentioned earlier. You know, we reach out to our cities that surround us. Not just in town, but, you know, about 60 to 70 miles every direction.
That's awesome stuff. All right, so we're going to have fun here now. It's called Ferrell's 5. I'm going to shoot you 5 questions.
Uh-oh.
These will be easy, I promise.
Oh, I bet they will.
There you go. Hey, you know me long enough. We know each other for a minute, so it's good stuff. Your favorite color?
My favorite color is probably blue. I think I'm pretty sexy in blue.
I'm too sexy for blue. There you go. All right, your go-to dessert.
My go-to dessert. I love me some banana pudding.
Yes. Any particular reason?
You know, I love banana flavored things, but usually banana pudding follows a good brisket or a good barbecue meal. So banana goes well with that. So yeah, so give me some banana pudding. That makes me happy.
All right, speaking of food, okay. 5 sports person, I mean, you're having a dinner party. This is Tobin Mcduff's dinner party. 5 past or present, or they could be dead or alive, sports personalities, could be in sports broadcasting, athletes, coaches, whoever, you would invite to this dinner, and why? 5 people that I get to invite. Right, sports people.
Yeah.
They could be living. They could be living or dead.
Okay, Roger Clemens is my all-time favorite baseball player, so I would invite Roger Clemens. Muhammad Ali. So many memories growing up with my dad being a boxer. So many memories of watching Muhammad Ali on Wide World of Sports. I would want him there. This is a really good question. Huge fan of Barry Sanders growing up in the state of Michigan. And Barry Sanders is just such a quiet individual. You just don't hear a lot from him. And so I would love to invite him and see if we could get Barry Sanders to open up at a meal like that. Mm-hmm. Man, this is really, really good, Jermaine. Growing up, let's go with Steve Yzerman to bring in hockey. Growing up as a kid in the state of Michigan, you know, I became a Detroit Red Wings fan at a young age, and Steve Yzerman was that first guy that kind of gave me that interest in hockey. And if there's one more athlete, who would I invite? Let's go ahead and go back to the early days of Major League Baseball and see how many hot dogs Babe Ruth could eat in one sitting.
So we got Babe Ruth, Steve Yzerman.
Steve Yzerman.
Muhammad Ali, Barry Sanders, and yep. Roger Clemens.
You got it.
That's an interesting group. You're probably going to have a lot of food, and beverages will have to flow. Okay, number 4. Is there a sporting event that you haven't covered? It could be a major one or a big one, because you cover a lot. But is there one that you haven't covered that you would like to cover?
You know what? I've been able to do the NBA Finals and the World Series and the Super Bowl. I would love to add the NHL finals to that, the Stanley Cup finals. That way I had covered the biggest event in all four of those. I think covering the Olympics too. Am I allowed to have two different things?
You can have as many as you want. I'll let you. Yeah, you're Tobin Mcduff. You can have as many as you want. You T-Mac.
But I would say, the Stanley Cup finals, so that way I can say I've covered the championships and all of the big four, and I think there would be something special about covering the Olympics as well.
All right. Final question. Is there an arena or stadium you would like to go to that you haven't gone to yet?
Yeah, well, yes. No, I mean, one of my bucket list events is to go to all of the Major League Baseball stadiums. I mean, so I can't say just one stadium that I want to go to, but I mean, I've still got about 15, 16, half of the stadiums that I would need to get to in Major League Baseball to finish that list. But I mean, that's kind of a bucket list thing for me, is to attend all of the Major League Baseball stadiums.
This is a bonus question. Favorite moment with Jermaine Ferrell?
Favorite moment? You're gonna find this funny, Jermaine, but I didn't even know that you were doing this, and you came back and you showed me. I may have just. Oh, I thought I lost.
Oh, you're
you
good. You're good.
My battery's getting low.
That's okay.
You went to Glenn Backus. I think you had Glenn do this for you. You had him create the Ferrell's Follies. It's a little animated thing. So it's Jermaine and your head's just kind of bouncing back and forth. And you started doing, your follies here, Ferrell's Follies, while you were here at KFDX. And that's one of my favorite moments. I mean, we had so many moments together, but I mean, kind of I mean this in a good way, is when you left. And just being able to share that moment with you as you moved on to the next chapter of your life. And I was so happy for you as you were able to head back to the East Coast.
I appreciate that. And this is the final question. How long do you see yourself doing? I mean, you've been doing this for 25 years. I mean, how long do you see yourself going? Because I still feel you got so much more to give. But is there a time where you're going to say to yourself, okay, I think I've done everything I could in this business. I've mentored so many. Do you have a timetable? And I don't want you to leave anytime soon, so it's not like I rush you out. But is there a time where, because there comes a time where you're just like, hey, it's time to hang up the mic.
Well, I mean, I really want to be able to do this as long as my body will allow me to do it. I've always felt that if I'm going to do this, I want to put 100% into it. I want to be able to make that hustle on a Tuesday night and get 4 basketball games and get back and get everything together. I don't want technology to get beyond me. So I'm hoping I can get to 40 years. Like you said, I just hit 25. I'd love to hit 40. And from that point, let's see what happens.
Well, I tell you what, Tobin, gosh, I love you, man. I mean, you've just been a blessing to me and so many. I tell you, people love you in Texoma, and I tell you, you might be, even in Nexstar, you might be one of the longest serving sports personalities in Texoma, or in Nexstar, because 25 years working at a station. Maybe David Robinette I think he might have you beat if it's close. But other than that, I can't think of anyone else who's been doing sports really at one station, much less usually. You've been there for 25 years, so I can't think of anyone else that's done that.
Yeah, I've grown, literally and figuratively since I've been here at KFDX, that's for sure.
Good deal. Tobin, you're awesome, sir. Thank you so much for being on the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. Do you have any last words?
No, I don't think so, Jermaine. You're missed here in Texoma. This will always be a home for you, and we love you.
Good deal. One other question just popped in my head. What do you feel is the big – you were like, Jermaine, shut up. We've been on here too long. My battery's running low.
Oh, Jermaine, you've been this way your whole life. You've always had a hard time bringing an end to things.
Yeah, you know me. I can't rap it. I mean, I flap my gums. You know, it's like, gosh, Jermaine, you're probably going home and be like, gosh, will you shut up? But what do you feel? This is kind of a two-part question. What is the biggest piece of advice you've given to these youngins that you've mentored, and what do you feel, is the biggest piece of advice you could give to someone that wants to get into the business or looking to get into the business?
No, I mean, the biggest thing for me when they come in here is just be open and willing to learn, accept critique, and understand that it's there for a reason. It's to make you better. Just be open to new ideas and then just be yourself. I mean, be who you are. And as you progress in your career, never forget where you came from, and try to help those, that are starting their careers when you get older and more mature in your career.
Good deal. By the way, do you still have your old reel that you 25 years ago?
You know what? Every once in a while we find some stuff, around here, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, go look at Tobin! Look at Tobin!" He's like, 50 pounds lighter. He's like 75 pounds lighter. He looks like a totally different person back when he started back in 1995. And I'm like, yeah, I am.
It's funny. Back then, you kind of resembled Tom Cruise a little bit.
You know what? That's funny that you say that, because I had someone at my church that had said that in my young years. They had said that. I thought I looked more like Peyton Manning, but I'll take time.
I could see that, yeah. Did you order the code red or something like that? Tobin, I love you, man. Thank you so much for being on. This is official. This is the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com with KFDX Sports Director, who's been doing it for 25 years, Tobin Mcduff, the pride of the Wolverine State. Thanks so much, sir.
And thank you so much for checking out this edition of the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. For all the latest news, weather, and sports, there's only one place to go. That's WFXRTV.com. Also, download the WFXR News app. More good stuff. We are here to hook you up with the good stuff on WFXR. Again, thank you so much for watching the latest edition of the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. I'm Jermaine Ferrell. Hope all of your teams are winners. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everybody.